So Darren Till sends his buddy and pal, Khamzat Chimaev, a warning ahead of a very tough fight against Sean Strickland at UFC 328. In addition to which, Sean Strickland threatened Khamzat Chimaev with brutal force if it gets out of hand. So Darren Till had a very unique perspective on his thoughts on UFC 328. And before I get into that, just think about this. Sean Strickland just said he would shoot Khamzat Chimaev. Yeah. I mean, this fight just crossed into dangerous territories. It crossed red lines. And I mean, I don't even know how the PR department of the UFC is even dealing with this, because Sean Strickland has a beef with Dana White. He actually called him out today saying, you got too many yachts, you effed up MMA, you effed up the UFC. So Sean Strickland's got something to say about everybody. Anyways, guys, let's talk about this. Welcome back. Welcome to Duality 7X. I'm your host, Shiraz. Guys, this is not your average ordinary story. Because the situation between Sean Strickland and Khamzat Chimaev, this isn't just hype, guys. This is something bigger. This is something bigger, and I don't think people understand the magnitude of what's going on, the dangerous lines that have been crossed, the things that have been said to one another. It's preposterous, guys. I mean, look, here's the thing. Sean Strickland, Khamzat Chimaev is probably one of the most talked about topics when it comes to MMA. These guys might actually expose a growing problem that's happening in the UFC behind the scenes, where promotion, personal life, lines like, real life lines are in danger, and they're starting to blur a little bit, which means there's a lot of ambiguity. It's not so clear. So we'll come back to that in just a second. We'll just shelf it for a second, because this matters a lot more than people think. When another UFC fighter has to threaten his opponent with brutal force, talking about unaliving him if it gets out of hand, this is where we have to draw the lines, guys. This is what we call, this is not just hype and marketing. This is serious. So I want to set the stage for you guys here. Like, look, we've got a middleweight title fight that's going down in UFC 328, something that we should be talking about, celebrating. But now we're just talking about the scary side of it, because on one side, you got Khamzat Chimaev, who's undefeated, he's dominant, and he's a world champion. He's a pressure-heavy fighter who overwhelms people very, very early, like he did to his former opponent that he won the title from, Dricus du Plessis. And on the other hand, you got Sean Strickland, probably one of the most durable, high-volume fighters in the division. This guy's known for his cardio, his stamina, his pace, his ability to go 5 rounds plus more, his jab, his takedown defenses. And right now, in the middle of all of this, aside from the UFC and Dana White, you got Khamzat Chimaev's buddy and pal, Darren Till, a guy who's trained with both men. So when Darren Till speaks, people listen. People need to listen, because Darren Till knows these guys in and out. Who better to hear from than Darren Till? When the trash talk, guys, when the trash talk here between these two guys goes too far, this is where people step in, right? Like before we even get into the fight, guys, like, yeah, there's pressers, there's, the weigh-ins and things like that. But things got seriously escalated between Khamzat and Sean Strickland in a very, very bad way. And Strickland's comments to Chimaev's comments about being jumped, he didn't take that too lightly. and so Sean Strickland came out, and he essentially told Khamzat Chimaev, he goes, listen, if you're thinking of even pulling those shenanigans, I'm going to pull out a gun and shoot you. And that's not metaphorically speaking, guys. That's That's not fight talk. That's not something you say to another fighter before you're going to fight them. These are real world, real life consequences. And let's be clear. Strickland is the kind of guy that likes to push boundaries. He's very loud, outspoken, controversial. I mean, that's part of his makeup. That's part of his brand. But this hits very, very different because essentially he's talking about unaliving people, which could be criminal. And now the UFC has a very, very serious PR problem. And I mean, this isn't just like a marketing promotion anymore. We're talking about liabilities that could put the UFC, the organization run by Dana White, in jeopardy. And so we need to talk about this because this is a serious matter. Very serious matter. And I mean, I for one, have been talking about this fight for quite some time. I'm excited about the level of caliber of fighters, the skill sets that both of these fighters bring to the table. But guys, the UFC thrives on tension. They like these kind of fights because there's clearly a fine line between selling a fight, losing control of the narrative. What do you do in that situation? I mean, if this situation escalates further, then a UFC is going to have to ultimately decide how they're going to be able to take control of the situation. They have to have contingencies in place, things to be able to mitigate from any potential risk, increase security, increase fighter security, control fighter interactions. And this is a point where Dana and the UFC need to step in and talk publicly as well prior to this fight actually even going down, because when promotion steps in, guys, people listen, that means things have gone too far, to the point where even the promotion itself can't even guarantee any control of the situation. That's something that the UFC doesn't want to be in. They don't want to talk about that. They don't want to show weakness. They don't want to show that they're losing their narrative against their own talent. I mean, when promotion speaks, everyone listens, including talent, right? So like if Sean Strickland is not going to listen, if Khamzat Chimaev is not going to listen, there's a big problem there, don't you guys think? Because like, I mean, if Darren Till, I mean, look, that's what Darren Till said is probably one of the most honest breakdowns I've heard. He's backing Chimaev, by the way. Okay, he's Khamzat Chimaev's friend, all right, and he's backing him to beat Sean Strickland, but he's worried for Khamzat because he feels that Khamzat is in probably for one of the most dangerous fights in his life. There's power, guys. There's pressure. There's all this momentum that Khamzat is riding into in this fight, and Darren Till truly believes that his buddy Khamzat will be able to dominate early. But, and there's always a but, and it's a big but. There's stipulations. Darren Till also warned Khamzat that no matter what you do, don't gas out against a guy like Strickland, because Strickland's biggest weapon isn't just power. He has this uncanny ability to maintain his stamina for 5 rounds or more. He can control the pace, and he enjoys doing that. His cardio is next level, guys. Sean Strickland drags his opponents into deep water. Like for 5 rounds, he continuously puts the pressure on them to the point where they just become jelly and they can't fight. So this fight becomes a classic clash. You got Chimaev, who's explosive. He's like Mike Tyson. He comes in there quick, he's fast, he likes to dominate early. And then you got Strickland, who's more about the long term. It's about survival. It's about breaking down his opponents round by round. And if Khamzat empties his tank early, then we're going to see a flip completely. And believe me, Khamzat's got his enemies. You got Dricus du Plessis, DDP, who's got nothing but negative things to say about the guy he lost his belt to. Now, in all fairness, DDP didn't fare that well against Khamzat. DDP came in there singing all this praise and talk about himself, but he came out flat. So, like, the question you got to ask yourself is what happens? What happens if Sean Strickland survives the first 2 rounds? Okay, that's dangerous. And he doesn't look like, and let's say he doesn't even look like he's breaking a sweat. And so this is where things are going to get incredibly uncomfortable for Chimaev, because come round 3, that could be where Sean Strickland completely flips the script on Khamzat. And it could completely change on how we view Khamzat as a champion, because if he's unable to deliver the goods like he would, let's say, in the previous couple rounds, then it's going to be Strickland's fight for the taking. Now, I'll tell you about my prediction at the end. So let's just zoom out here for a second, and let's just look at everything as it is right now, because this fight's not happening in a vacuum. No way. Okay? And we're talking about leverage here. Leverage trumps everything right now when it comes to this fight, because Khamzat Chimaev is being positioned as a global star. The UFC is building around Khamzat Chimaev. You got Sean Strickland on the other side of things. He's the wild card, guys. He's kind of like a Josh Hockett. He's unfiltered, he's uncontrolled, and more importantly, he's unpredictable. This is what makes Sean Strickland so dangerous, because of his unpredictability, what he may or may not do in the ring. And that creates some serious tension, not just in the cage, but when it comes to negotiations, when it comes to promotion, and when it comes to brand image. So Sean Strickland is walking into this octagon, in his opinion, controlling the narrative of what's going down. And look, UFC stars, guys, UFC wants stars. They want stars, but the UFC also wants to maintain control. They want to maintain and control the narrative. And Strickland continues to test that balance every single time and opportunity he gets a chance. And you know Dana and the UFC does not like that. Now, somebody was asking, who's Darren Till? Who's Darren Till, and why does this mean so much? Why is this important? Why do we even care about what Darren Till is even saying? Because Darren Till is the kind of guy that makes moves on his own. I mean, he left the UFC back in 2023. He rebuilt himself in the world of boxing. All right, he's picked up 4 wins. And now, Darren Till, he's going after a world title, guys. He's going after a championship. He's going into bare knuckle fighting, and he's going for the bare knuckle fighting championship. And he's set to fight a guy that was once supposed to fight Floyd Money Mayweather back in 2023 as an exhibition bout, but that fight never happened. And I'm talking about Aaron Chalmers, who's a former reality TV star. And just imagine, Aaron was supposed to go toe-to-toe with the money man himself, you know, Floyd Money Mayweather. But that fight never happened. But the fight between Darren Till and Aaron Chalmers is going down, and that's going down May 30th, guys, in Birmingham. And if Darren Till wins, we might actually finally see him take on Mike Perry, probably one of the biggest names in BKFC. And just remember, Nate Diaz is set to fight Perry. This is where it gets really, really interesting, right? Because if Mike Perry gets through Nate Diaz, then all the stars are going to align, and this is going to be a huge fight, with Darren Till. So, I mean, everything is connected here. But if Mike Perry doesn't get through Nate Diaz, I wonder how much hype he's going to be able to bring into that fight against Darren Till. So, I've been really thinking a lot about Sean Strickland and Khamzat Chimaev, and I'm really concerned. I'm telling you guys, I want to bring this to full circle for you guys, because I'm really concerned about what's going to happen. Because if you think this is just about Strickland versus Chimaev, it's way more to it, guys. There's way more to it. This is almost like Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Conor McGregor. all right? And this is kind of where I think combat sports is headed. You got this kind of hype that's surrounding this fight. I mean, we're technically entering an era where fighters are their own promoters. Whether you like it or not, whether you like what they're cutting as a promo, it's irrelevant because they're doing it anyway. Lines are being pushed further, and then you have the controversy. And the controversy, I guess, in this case is currency, right? Because now more and more people are going to be tuning into this fight. But you have to understand, when it comes to fights like this, at some point there's a cost. So the UFC, as a promotion, as an organization, has to decide how far is too far. How much are they willing to let go and not intervene or impede in the way of these guys saying what they're saying on social media? Because when talk turns into real world threats, guys, that's no longer a promotion. That's evidence. That's evidence for the police. This could be criminal, guys, and that's a risk. That's a risk that the UFC, as much as they like hype, as much as they like controversy, as much as they like tension, they don't like risk. They don't like these kind of risks. That's not something that they want. They don't want that smoke. So now the question I have for you guys is simple. Does this fight, or let me reframe this. Is all the stuff that's being said between Khamzat Chimaev and Sean Strickland against one another, does that make the fight? Or does it actually make it dangerous? Because in my opinion, one thing's clear, all right? One thing's clear. You can see it from a mile away when Strickland and Chimaev fight, or even prior to them fighting, when they finally step into that cage, we're not just talking about a belt on the line, guys. We're talking about people's lives, people's careers. We're talking about who's in control. Are the fighters in control, or is the promotion in control? So anyways, guys, lots of serious things to talk about. It may not seem that big, but if you understand the implications, you understand the fighters, the ramifications of what could happen, then it becomes more than a headline. It becomes more than a story. It becomes real. So I want to hear from you guys. I want to hear your thoughts and comments. What do you guys think? Are you excited for this fight? Who do you have winning in this fight? So make sure you're locked and loaded, guys. I want to read your comments. I want to hear from you guys. Please smash the like and subscribe. Hit the notification so you guys never miss a beat. Hit the thanks button. And as usual, guys, I look forward to catching you guys in the next video. Check out our YouTube, check out our store as well too. We've got some amazing apparel for you guys, some really good teas, coffee mugs, and YouTube thinks you'll like probably one of these two videos. Watch them both, guys. Watch them both. You're gonna love it. But in the meantime and in between time, that's it. And I look forward to catching you guys tomorrow.